Welcome, everybody, to Too Legit to Crit, a tabletop role playing podcast made for those who come for the epic storytelling but stay for the chaotic, accidental arson. Looking at you, Misfit.
I was about to say, I feel called out.
My name is Juan Santana, and joining me, as usual, are the wonderful Misfit and Zoop. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
So, last week, we were talking about character backstories and fanfic and all that. So, kind of off the back of that, why don't we talk about let's go a bit more in depth in the character backstory side of things, because either as a GM or as a player, we've either had to create them or we've been subject to them, as I have on more than one occasion. Oh, that is cute. So for the people that
are the podcast, there's a cat.
There's a cat, so you're just going to get a few minutes of silence while we admire this gorgeous creature.
It looks like my cat, Frodo.
No. Hear that? You have a friend.
They're like, no, back off.
It's like...
we can keep going. She's just going to sit here for a couple minutes.
That's fine.
I don't have an animal to show on the screen. I've just got Knuckles.
I have death claws. Oh, wait, I can show this one. Because this one's already out on the internet.
Ooh.
Oh, that is cool.
Thank you. It's a Nuka Quantum Death Claw.
Ooh.
It does glow under black light.
Nice. That's
Do I have a black light? I think I have a black light near me. Hold on.
Is any reason why you'd have a black light near you?
It's specifically for this.
Specifically, so I can just show off my dope art. And even the base glows too.
Nice.
Oh, that is very cool. I will say that is fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, so backstories. Yes, hire Misfit. If you need an artist, hire Misfit. It's easy, simple. So backstories. What do you know about backstories?
Backstories are very important to a character. That's what I know. No, I'm joking. I mean, well, no, they are, but that's not all I know.
All right, we can start. We can start then. We can start there then. So, why are they important?
Well, your character has to come from somewhere, right? They can't just be, oh, I popped into existence right here and now I am a character with nothing, but I am coming into this story with abilities. That doesn't fly, y'all. I guess it does, but no.
I mean, I think first we have to separate, are we talking long form or one
short form? Yeah.
One shots you're generally not going to have too much of a backstory. A lot of one shots you are made up mostly of whatever, it depends on the system, but you're made up of whatever your skills and abilities are. And a lot of times I think in one shots I like to just find out along the way.
Yeah, things. For me, when I enter a one shot, I definitely have more of a vibe than a fleshed out character.
Yeah, vibe is a good way of putting it.
I played a explorer archaeologist in a one shot. And so I played up the love of history and the love of exploration, and all of their decisions were based off their love of just discovering new things.
Right. I think Perils and Princesses, I've played a couple times, and so in Perils and Princesses you get a fairy godmother. You have a special gift that you're given by your fairy godmother, and I think there's, and then you roll for your resolve, wit, and there's one other thing, and your hit points. And then I think, based on those things, you can kind of like you start getting a vibe of like what your character's personality is, like why did this fairy godmother choose you? Usually you're a princess, and that's why. Um, but I think in things in one shots, it's a lot of times like more personality
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
than necessarily worrying about where your character came from.
But like as far as deeper long form games, I think having maybe not like all the way from your childhood, because that's kind of hey, go ham if that's what you need to help you flesh out the character, like by all means, boo boo, go for it. But like I don't personally feel like you need to. I usually have like they had a rough childhood, or they had
Mm,
a typical childhood, whatever typical for, a white person is.
Mhm.
Probably like a white picket
mm.
fence and a dog and a cat and a brother and like a mom and dad who sort
Like
of
we were
loved them
talking
but didn't
earlier,
know
like
how.
90s
Yeah,
sitcoms.
sitcom.
Yeah.
The sitcom family.
Yeah.
Um or like whatever, and I'll kind of do a more broad generalization for their childhood and like really adolescent years, and usually focus more on like their college and on years, because
Mhm.
I like playing more adult characters, not just like NC-17 adult, although I do that quite often. Uh, I love me a good spicy character.
Okay, wait. Actually, question. How
Mhm.
often do you establish your character's kinks before you start?
Ooh, let me ruminate on that thought for a sec, because that's a pretty involved question, especially for a VTM character. Because like most of our
That's
characters end up having a kink.
um as as for mine, I don't.
um, and
My characters, they may have some. I just haven't really thought of them.
how often do you decide sexuality before?
I don't.
all of my characters have a sexuality preference. So like my girl Heather, who plays in who I play in Mage Ascension, um, she's more demi.
Hmm.
So like she really has to have deep feelings and emotions, and like she has to feel like she can trust you before romantic inclinations start. Um, which is very fun to play. Aster, on the other hand, is very pan and does not care gender, sexual, like does not give a crap. She's like, "Oh, you're hot. Let's go bang."
But do you decide that beforehand, or do you let
It
that
kind of
play
happened
out?
organically.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I've generally found is organic. One of my favorites was when I was playing Master New Generation and playing, I think probably like 17-year-old or something like that. And she started the game like really obsessed with like wanting to kiss somebody, and
Mhm.
or like trying to figure out when is the appropriate time to kiss somebody. And then halfway through the game, I was like, oh wait, she's ace.
Aw.
That's why she's I and
Hmm.
because I was like, nothing's happening that's making her feel like it. And I realized, oh, she's been obsessed this whole time with how do you know when is the right time to kiss somebody, because she doesn't feel that because she's ace.
Hmm.
That's really sweet. And like honestly speaking, a really good story to have, because so many people would resonate with that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um like Bo, my girl Bo, even though she wasn't for like an AP or anything, she was definitely ace.
Hmm.
Like did not do there was a scene where she had to flirt with someone and she was like, we're talking a high charisma character. Charisma was her best stat. And she was like, how does one do that?
Hmm.
Right.
So like um
I don't think I've played enough characters to explore that about them.
mhm,
Because most of the games that I've played have all fallen into this sort of fantasy trope. So the characters that I've brought in are more interested in we're going adventuring, we're earning riches, and those have been the sort of
Here's a
motivations. They've
question.
not had the sort of interpersonal motivations tied into them.
Does system determine if you like does system so for me, I'm finding when I play high fantasy games, I tend to play very ace spectrum characters because
Hmm.
like I'm not here for a deep romantic story. I'm here
Mm.
for cool exploration and like finding dope ass magical items. Um but, like, in VTM and, like, really subsequently World of Darkness in general, I tend to play characters that have love interest or that have a romantic thread in them. So,
Mhm.
I
like,
think
does
I think in
system determine that for you or
I don't
influence it?
necessarily. I definitely think it influences it. I
Okay.
definitely think it 100% influences it, because a lot of the times when you're playing one of these deck building sort of systems, a lot of what you do as a character backstory is justifying your mechanics.
Mhm.
So, you know, you've got a character who's got a high knowledge or high intelligence score. So your backstory kind of includes that. That kind of informs the way your backstory goes. But because there is no mechanic for personal relationships, it becomes less important. It
So
becomes less sort of tangible.
if you like
Hmm.
reflect back on some of those characters, because that makes a lot of sense. I mean,
That
like
does make a lot
in
of sense.
in all of like I'm thinking of like in all of the D&D games that I played, where we played in a module, we played Curse of Strahd. Well, no, she was a lesbian in Curse of Strahd, but
Fuck yeah.
Curse of Strahd, Call of the Netherdeep, um other ones of those, Abomination Vault, is Pathfinder, but there wasn't really time for romance. Like that wasn't, but like if you go back and reflect and like try to inhabit that character, do you see there being a possibility of a romantic relationship once they're done adventuring?
Quite possibly.
Hmm. With Bo,
Quite
definitely
possibly,
not.
but I think it might be almost shoehorned in
Right,
at
right.
that
You don't want
point.
to shoehorn it and like just thinking like
Mm.
could, because like when I played Strahd, so I played Curse of Strahd, and before that we played like two short modules to get into it, and my character fell in love with one of the one of the main characters in one of the prequels. So after that, it was just like the rest of it was like her just trying to get back to her. Like that wasn't like what was first on her mind, but like
Mm.
anything else, that wasn't a thing. But like Call of the Netherdeep, there was no relationship. Like I have no idea. Looking back, I have no idea what Shri would do
I think
relationship wise.
we have definitely hit on something in terms of, you know, how systems can have an effect on backstory and motivations. Because when I'm
Mhm.
when I'm running a game, and you know, most of what I've run up until now has been in Pathfinder. A lot of what I used to do, what I found more important, sorry, should I say, than backstory, was motivation.
Mhm.
And I encouraged players to kind of have their backstory um, kind of enforce that motivation and rationalize the motivation. But other than that, I never wanted 3 pages of backstory,
Okay, yeah, so let's
because
go back to that. What is the difference between, can we tear that apart a little bit and like separate backstory and motivation?
Ooh, that's a good one. So like I tend to put so when I write a backstory, I will use a character that I'm working on right now, actually. for a Fallout game. I'm making a ghoul. And ghouls are really cool. I chose a ghoul because, like, I think I love ghouls in Fallout. I think they're fucking cool as shit. The whole idea of changing, like, having a certain something about you that, like, can process radiation is really cool. And when I say process radiation, I mean, like, it's kind of processing radiation. It's kind of like not dying instantly. But for them, a lot of their motivation is tied into what helps them stay attached to their humanity and keeps them from going feral, which is their love of exploration. So it's a motivation, but it's also a necessity for them. And that drive to stay connected to their humanity has sort of pushed them into what they are doing now. So it is a little bit of backstory, but it's also a little bit it's a little bit of both, I think.
I mean,
if I'm
for
understanding.
me, the way I build a character is the same way I will build a campaign. I imagine, and I did see this somewhere on the internet, so this is not exclusively my idea, and I'm probably going to butcher the explanation for it, but the way I see it is I see it sort of like a target. So just imagine your typical target with 3 or 4 rings with a bullseye in the middle. The way I GM is what's in the bullseye is the things that the information that the players either know or have immediate access to. The next ring is the things that they are close to, that they can find out. So, imagine a town. So the town would be the bullseye. That is what the players have access to. The first ring would be the surrounding region. The next ring would be the wider, etc., the wider country. For a character, I do the same thing. So, for example, right in the middle, the bullseye is the why. Why is my character doing this? Why are they adventuring? Why are they going on this quest? What has pushed them to, leave relative safety to go and chase whatever they are looking for? So that is the bullseye, the motivation. Then the next ring would be a sort of loose rationalization of said motivation. So, okay, so the motivation is they want riches. Why do they want riches? Well, they come from a poor background where they had to grift, where they had to do whatever they needed to do to prosper. And that has fueled this sort of inherent greed. And then the further you go out is the more detail I will add. And depending on what is required at that specific time. So I won't come up with a backstory. I will come up with at most where they're from. But other than that, it's all motivation for me.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I tend to lean towards motivation more than like a backstory. Like I have backstories. Yeah, like all of my characters do, but like a lot of the way I play a character is determined by their motivations and how they experience the world. So like I'm trying to think of a character. I didn't write a whole lot of backstory for Aster. I'm gonna be so for real with y'all. I literally was like, okay, what if she just blew up a building and she's on the run? And my storyteller was like, cool bet. And I was like, outside of that, I don't want to know. I don't want to decide anything. I just kind of want to experience the story. So that is a whole way to approach a game. That is not for the faint of heart. Because you don't know what you're gonna get, and it is very much I am leaving everything up to fate and chance. It is not for the faint of heart. If you like having a little bit of control over your characters and what happens to them, I do not recommend doing that.
It also, well, that's also like it's the GM can't be faint of heart either, because
Yeah, yeah,
I was in a game where the the whole game was a mess, but basically the people in charge got very grumpy because I didn't have enough backstory for them. And like they were
sometimes
like,
you gotta
I
leave it
can't
vague.
understand your motivation. And when I like gave motivation, they're like, that's not good enough motivation. But
But
like,
that
which
What
that's
was the motivation?
yeah,
the
because that to me sounds like a tool bag.
Yeah.
You know.
well, it's I was like, because she was in the circus. She was an aerial performer in the circus. So uh
I love her
she was
already.
okay, she was found in a village where everyone else was dead by four adventurers who took her under their wing. And then they dropped her off at a friend's tavern because they had to go deal with some big threat, and they never came back. So she joined or she was eventually sent to an orphanage, which I didn't think of as a big deal because I'm like, it's fantasy. Like lots of people lose their parents. So
Mhm.
she like it's not like she was like, "Oh, I'm without family." She was actually like completely surrounded by people she considered
Hmm.
family. Um but she saw someone doing aerial acts, and she really loved the fact that she really loved aerials. So she eventually ran away to join the circus. And then the circus met there, or the circus went to the place where all the characters were meeting, and her magic went out of control, so the circus left her behind, and she ended up really attaching to one of the other player characters because she showed healing magic, which wasn't, you know, widely seen in the world. So she was
Hmm.
like, and kindness.
Yeah.
And so she was really just like, I want to go wherever this person goes because they are precious and great, and they've shown healing, and they're giving healing without expecting something in return. Like everyone she's seen that did
Hmm.
healing um had always been doing it for a price, like expecting
Yeah.
something in return. So somebody who would just give healing for no reason other than the goodness of their heart.
Hmm.
um
So why
and they were
wasn't
like,
that enough?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That to me,
Uh,
that to me is perfect. That to me is you've given me broad strokes. You've given me the things that you would like included in a backstory,
mhm.
and you've given me motivation. As a GM, that is
That's
perfection. That is all I could ask for. Because the moment we go to your hometown where everyone died, that's when I'm going to pull you aside and start asking questions, and we're
mhm.
going to create that together.
Yeah. Well, we
Because
actually
you
we actually started in that hometown.
Hmm.
It turned out that was actually they had rebuilt the town over the
Hmm.
explosion site. Um
Fair.
but it could have been really cool, but yeah, for some reason, and the more I talk to people, the more they're like, yeah, that was a them problem. But they were like
100%.
yeah, that's not enough motivation. Your character seems stiff as a board.
Yeah, 100%. It's
Boo.
not. It's a bullshit take.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah,
you
I
you
think you provided all the meats, veggies, and potatoes to like
yeah.
make a
I
really
don't
good
need.
stew.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when someone provides a detailed 3-page backstory, you end up as a GM in the position of the player having an expectation of that backstory being shoehorned in.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I get it because they've spent hours of their life working this out and writing this narrative. But it sometimes it does become shoehorned. It does become a thing of shit, I've got to include this and I don't know how because the
Mhm.
campaign's going in one direction, they're coming from another. and somehow we need to be able to resolve these deep-seated issues that this person has decided to impose upon themselves. Whereas what you've done, whereas something happened in the town I was born in, I gravitated towards a group of adventurers. They left me. I joined the circus, and then I've joined this because of this reason. That for me is perfect because, I could bring in that, at some point you could be traveling across the land and you encounter that particular circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, 100%.
and that's when I'm going to kind of go, Zoop, can we have a little chat?
Mm-hmm.
And let's build this together. What do you think happened? Let's learn of the specifics. Who was in the circus? Do you have any idea? You would like, and I would work with you and we would create a narrative together without me giving you any sort of information about what to expect, but from where you're from. It would be, for me, that's perfection.
So I think this is actually, if we veer off topic a little bit, this is a good plug for like making sure everybody at the table is on the same page as to like expectation of how much backstory and the like. And I think that's harder when you're playing in person. Sometimes you're stuck with like everybody, like these are the people that are around you, so you have to. But when you're playing online, it's worth figuring those things out to begin with so that they don't become a problem later, because it didn't matter the fact that this was more backstory than I'd ever written for anybody, and I even had like the names of people and all of that. None of that mattered because it paled in comparison to the other players' 20-page backstories.
Holy shit, that's too much.
I
It's too
I
much.
That's
think
too
it, I think
much.
I think it was more than 20 pages, but like
That's too much. Because, like, okay, at that point, you aren't leaving any room for actual role play and things to develop in the story.
oh yeah, no, they
Um,
had everything.
like,
They had everything written from A to Z.
well, like that also, not to sort of change the subject, people who map out their characters all the way to level 20 confuse the shit out of me before
Yeah.
the game even starts. Like, that confuses the bejesus out of me
Oh well,
because,
That
I mean,
like,
in this
is
case,
things
they
could
didn't
change.
have it written all the way to level 20, but they had an entire campaign's worth of backstory.
that the mapping characters out all the way to level 20. That is very much a 3.5 thing.
That, yeah,
Oh.
it's very much a 3.5 Pathfinder thing. Like,
Um,
a lot of Pathfinder
um,
players do that.
it's because it was so easy to make bad choices. So the character, so they go kind of, okay, I want to build Captain America, for
Yeah.
example. So for
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, I need this feat and that feat and that feat. I can't get these feats without getting these previous ones. So you do kind of have to go in that mindset of where my character will be in 20 levels time. Later editions have mitigated that slightly. In second edition, it's not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a very much a 3.5
It's
thing.
it's so confusing every once
Mm.
in a while when I run into it again. I'm just like, you're
I
not
yeah, I
leaving
think it's
any
more
room
when it's
for.
very mechanics based versus
Mm. Yeah.
personality and story based.
Yeah, this is very
Mm.
much a mechanics thing, and
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that, like, confuses me.
Mm.
As for writing a 20-page backstory, that is ridiculous in my opinion. Um,
I've always
some of that could
found
have
that
been fanfic.
yeah. Back to last nice callback. I appreciate the callback
Yes.
to last episode. Check out our last episode where we discuss fanfic. Now, what I find is when people write such a detailed backstory, they massively run the risk of creating this sort of ludo narrative dissonance between
What is
what
the
they had
Ludo
written.
narrative?
The ludonarrative dissonance is a term that was coined years ago. I can't remember by whom. And it is when the mechanics of a game contradict the narrative of a game.
Mhm.
One of the prime examples is, I think it was GTA 4, when it came out, where you're playing this Russian mobster who's very reluctant, who wants to get out of the life and he wants to be a good person, but then it goes to the player and we start mowing down prostitutes.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, the narrative, the mechanics do not feed into the narrative. And in tabletop role playing games, there it's prevalent for this. One of the prime examples that I always like to give is hit points. A dragon at 300 hit points is just as dangerous as a dragon at 1 hit point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you have the mechanics that do not reinforce the story. So if I, in my backstory, let's say you did, and I'm using Galarian as an example here because that's the world I'm familiar with. I have a character that grew up in Avistan, but he speaks Taldor, for example. But when it, or, part of his childhood he spent in Taldor. When it comes to creating my character, I don't add Taldor as a language.
Interesting. Okay.
What do I do then? Do I kind of go to the gem? Oh yeah, but I put Taldoran in my backstory, but the character sheet says I can't speak it. And it does create this sort of disconnect between the mechanics of the game and the narrative, and that's what when you have such a detailed backstory. At the age of 5, I learned how to climb. Yeah, but you haven't backed that up. Your character sheet doesn't reflect that.
Mm-hmm. It feels like they're trying to squeeze in extra abilities because of backstory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's always intentional, but a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pick the mechanics that fit the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a 20-page backstory where you've had all these different life experiences, you can't, because you've got a very limited set of abilities.
Mm-hmm.
This is why Aster, I knew when I was like, Aster's an eco-terrorist, when I was like, she's wanted for blowing up a building, when I said that, I was like, okay, her sheet needs to reflect that she has done a lot of dubious things for a long time. So I went with a jack of all trades build versus like a normal build or even a specialist. I was like, she needs to have a kind of be a skill junkie.
Yeah.
She would have a little bit of knowledge on how to do just about everything or get fucking close to knowing how to do just about everything.
Yeah, I mean, but that's it. You build based on your character. Now you kind of work backwards.
Mm-hmm.
This is my character. He's a level 1 bard. Okay, so why is he bard? Where did that come from? And you kind of build backwards and you become more detailed the further back you go.
Here's a question. Is it character sheet first, then backstory, or backstory, then character sheet? Because I'm a character sheet, then backstory person.
Yeah, same.
When
no,
I've changed. I have changed. I used to be character sheet first, and then backstory. Those were in the days of Pathfinder First Edition.
That makes
sense.
Where
you had to kind of focus on optimal build. So it was important to have that character sheet and then explain it via the motivations and backstory. Second edition, it wasn't as imperative. So that gave me a bit more freedom to kind of create a character and just kind of go, okay, this is the sort of character I want. And then kind of go forward from there and kind of build the character. So, like, for example, in Parasan, my first character, Akira, we established like her lore, not necessarily her backstory, but her motivations and lore way before the character was even built.
Yeah, that's kind of with Banshee too.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew I wanted a monk. I felt like I wanted basically the Green Arrow or League of Assassins sort of kind of character. So that's basically what I started out as, and it wasn't. It was a very sort of brief backstory of like her clan and where she came from, and then I built the character to reflect that.
Yeah, I think when I play D20 systems, I tend to do sheet then story. But like for any of the stuff that I play in World of Darkness outside of Heather, because Heather was handed to me, that was an NPC that I was supposed to play for a bit role, and then everyone at the table was like, "But you stay," which was really sweet. But like I tend to do sort of a rough idea, and I'll have my rough idea, and then I say, okay, what needs to on the sheet, like mechanically, needs to reflect the rough idea.
Yeah.
And then I kind of I flesh out the rest of the story after getting a better idea for the mechanics. If that makes any sense. So I really try to make sure that my backstory is reflected in the mechanics of it, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That balanced approach.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I'll think of the character first and the motivations, and then I'll build from there. Case in point, my Fabula character Edgar. Edgar was actually a pre-gen, but when the sort of introductory scenario finished, it was okay. Now we're going into a campaign. If you want to keep your pre-gen, feel free to change them, and I did. And I basically created a gun-wielding paladin.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because Fabula, you can do shit like that.
Oh, 100% is great. It's a fun system, yeah.
I built a Valkyrie in Fabula. Ooh. I have yet to play her, but I've built her. Kaya is such a cool character, and I have her in my back pocket for anybody who wants to fucking do a Fabula game. I have a character ready. Put me in, coach.
Well, we have our friend of the show, Couch. He is our Fabula GM. I will propose this to him and see if he would like to run a one shot.
She's so cool. She's got runes on her wings, and she actually uses them as shields.
Cool.
Ooh, nice.
So she has these giant, like almost 10-foot wingspan, and she'll just come up in front of people and like put her wings in front of them, and her wings act as two shields. So like, and they have just all these runes on them, and whenever they get hit, they light up in runes and they turn into like bronze. It's really cool. Put me in, coach.
That reminds me, I played a character in a short a one shot Princess and Perils game. And I rolled on armor and I got heavy armor. But I didn't want her to be walking around in a suit of armor. So she was actually wearing a lenga, which is an Indian outfit. It's got a shirt and kind of like a corset top almost, and then a long flowing skirt, and then a scarf called the dupatta. And I was like, yeah, all of that's reinforced.
Fuck yeah.
I was like, there's not armor. I was like, or like she's got she's got like skin tight, like nice mithril armor underneath, and then the corset on top, and the skirt is all boned, and and I had a shield too, and I was like, the dupatta is just her shield. Like when she needs to take it, she just takes it and like swirls it around and stops whatever she wants.
That's so cool. I love
that. Sounds cool. I like this. I like the sound of that. So, how much detail do you like? Because we've spoken about my sort of expectations as a GM, but as players, how much detail do you put into your characters? And not only that, once that is done, do you allow for any sort of wiggle room to kind of fit into the campaign?
I think all good players leave wiggle room. It's really important in collaborative storytelling games to be flexible with your character. I tend to my backstories never go beyond like 4 paragraphs is I think the most that I've ever written for a backstory. Um and in those 4 paragraphs, it's usually like a childhood summary, personality summary, um, and like some sort of like thoughts about them.
Hmm.
Like
Um,
it's and motivation. That's the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. There's motivation, and then like sometimes I'll do like deeper thoughts. So like one of my characters, she's in a really shitty situation, but the reason she's in this situation to begin with and has like is in massive debt to loan sharks is because she is trying to take care of her sick mother in the hospital.
Hmm.
So like on the surface she's like the super bubblegum princess like pop girl um who has like a really dark fucked up story because she is just trying to save her one last surviving family member.
Hmm.
but like you didn't need to write down all the different times that
No,
she's gotten money and from who she's gotten it from and all of
correct.
that to make like a, you know,
I
50
wanted
page
to leave that up
backstory.
for the storyteller because that's important.
Yeah.
That part of the story is the important part that needs to be flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
So
I've had it.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
after you, Soup.
No,
No,
you
no,
go.
please.
Okay.
No, you go.
Okay. So I was writing down characters. And so Ziva has the most backstory because of like the bullying from the other players, and other the
typical bullying,
showrunners
right?
that I had to have more. It's not enough. So she has way too much. Um but and like Akra was my first D&D character, you know, after high school,
Hmm.
like in this current iteration of me playing games. And Akra, i um I was just told about Critical Role, and I was told that Dragonborns, like, of course, my first character was a Dragonborn, but I was told that Dragonborns can come with or without tails. And then I was told that the Ravenites, the ones without tails, were enslaved for a long time by the ones with tails. So, like, the only thing I knew about Akra to start with, like, he had a whole family, he had, like, a loving mother, loving father, loving grandparents, loving like um uh brothers and sisters. And all I knew is that cuz it was set in the Critical Role universe in Exandria. So all I knew is that they had somehow gone from where the Ravenites eventually were over to where the story was
Hmm.
at some point, and that he knew about like the slavery way back when, and so was like very anti-slavery. And he was a giant nerd, and his mentor had just been killed. That was what I knew about him.
Hmm.
That and we went along with that. Purvi Patel knew that her dad was a super criminal, was a like a evil villain mastermind. It turned out he didn't end up being like a super villain. He was really just a corporate thief. But he was the Perilous Patel, um, who developed cosmic powers, and then by like breaking into a facility and like trying to steal something where they were doing stuff, and he got hit by a ray, gave him cosmic powers, passed it on through his seed, you know, normal stuff. Um and then like ended up in jail. And then there's like Sprocket. Sprocket. The only stuff I know about Sprocket is a Zafara looking creature. So if you ever played Neopets, no. Okay, well, it basically is Zafara looks like a dog dinosaur with like scales and like a cute nose and a tail. Um and Sprocket does
That
not
looks really
have
cute.
you looked it up, Zafara.
Of course.
And Sprocket does not have just uses they them pronouns because Sprocket's race doesn't really have I haven't decided if they are monogender or trigender. Doesn't matter. But the only thing I know about Sprocket is they're really good at being an artificer. And that's literally all, and that the captain had brought Sprocket because the person playing the captain said, like, I this is the story of how I became a captain. And I was like, oh, okay, I think Sprocket was helping you along with it, and so you brought Sprocket when you became captain. That's all I knew about Sprocket, and Sprocket is one of my best beloved characters.
Reminds me of my character Tink. So my character Tink is a technomancer, and she has a little bit of a fucked up story. Her youth, the planet that she was born on is a dying world. So resources are sparse, and it's kind of every person for themselves. When it was found, when her family realized that she had abilities, like that she could manipulate technology and whatnot, they money. They
Yeah,
wanted
used
money.
her for
Yeah.
her.
Very exploitive, and she finally made some choices. Not great ones. Death is a thing. Death happens a lot. Did not feel bad about it. And when she ran away, she went to the one space station on the planet, and she was like, fuck it, I'm gonna barter, or I'm gonna figure out, or I'll just stow away on a ship to get off this goddamn planet. Where that is where she met her now battle buddy, essentially. And they started a friendship because she literally saved him from being obliterated in a bar fight. And he was like, you know what, you're useful, come with me. And then like so it's just it's very like Groot meets Rocket, thank you.
Rocket.
Very, very similar, except the big one was Rocket and Tink was baby Rocket.
Actually, so question, how much backstory did you start with? Because what I realized when I was telling you all of this is that for some of them, like Ziva's backstory, that's not how much I started with. Like, or it was close to how much I started with, but like the names of characters I didn't start with. I like figured that out later. But like a lot of
all of
stuff
that
like
was
Sprocket, that's how much I started with. And then like as the game was playing, I was like, I need to figure out a reason why Sprocket cares about this. Maybe this happened, maybe that happened.
No, this was started, a lot of this has to do with the fact that like me as a player, it was my first time playing Starfinder. So my friend Andrew, who was pulling me into this game, was like, let's make our characters a unit, like a team, so that way I can kind of help you learn the system a little bit. And I was like, cool, bet, that sounds great. So it literally everything that I like, everything in Tank's backstory was just backstory. And then when we met up with them in modern day, they have had a very rich history of being bounty hunters and like whatnot. So like her and Zuko, which was her companion, literally they were just bounty hunters across the galaxy for a long time before we got to the present of where that game started.
But
So
do
one of
you
my
ever go ahead?
sorry, after you.
Do you ever have times when you start with very bare bones backstory, but by like the end of the game, you have a lot more?
Aster.
Mm.
Well,
Aster is
that does
that.
actually kind of lead into what I was gonna say is in my Rise of the Rune Lords campaign, I had a player, and he wasn't really one for crafting backstories or anything. So we basically kind of chatted about his character. His character was a is a type of archer, like a spirit hunter or something like that. But his backstory was he grew up in Ustalav, which is the Transylvania of Galarian.
Mhm.
Um, at some point, a tragedy happened when he was a kid. He fled. He met someone with whom he traveled for some time. Tragedy hit again, and hey presto, he is now in the story. Those were essentially the sort of the guidelines
Mhm.
that he you know that he came up with. We ended up crafting a story that I am incredibly sort of proud of. So the story that we came up with, or I kind of I kind of did it because I made his character have forgotten a lot of it through the trauma. So his parents were rich before he was born. They could not conceive. They made a deal with this entity from the dreamlands in order to conceive, and the price was the firstborn when they came of age, or when they came of a certain age. So when that time came around, the parents reneged. So this thing came and took his sister and killed the parents. That was the first tragedy. He moved on, and then a few years later, what had happened was the sister was raised in this dreamland and became a dream entity herself, and she resented him. So I created a very Freddy Krueger villain for him in the form of his sister, who would follow him around and attack the people he cares about.
Okay, so
And
that is
that was
so cool. But how much of that, like, do you think it would have been harder if he had come to you with that? Or was it actually easier because you could take, okay, I know that something bad has happened that has gotten you to this place, and now I can figure out what bad thing happened that makes sense
yeah,
to
that was
to the
one
world.
hundred percent 100% easier.
That's usually how
100.
I
Mm,
function. I'm like, I want to say that something bad, like with Ziva, I'm like, something killed
mm,
her whole village. Were they sacrificing her to something and it backfired
mm.
and killed all of them? Were they, something else like whatever happened that caused everyone else to die but her? I'm like,
Yeah,
that's all for you. That's all for you, GM. You can figure that out.
yeah. And the beauty of it is, I didn't tell the player this.
Mhm.
Mm.
I started having the character have these dreams. And it all came about. The final confrontation of it is I went to the other players and said, we're going to do a dream sequence. He's not going to know about it. You're all going to wake up. You're all going to act normally, but you're going to start saying these things. And I'd written down certain phrases, such as, they died because of you. This is all your fault, etc., etc.
Ooh.
And during the course of maybe an hour, the players were just interacting, and all of a sudden, one of them would say something like that. And when he got to the point of the paranoia of what's going on, that's when it kind of got revealed, and it was a combat, and it honestly was it was a moment I'm really proud of.
That sounds like a wonderful gift to give your player.
Hmm. Yeah, he got so fucking paranoid. It was great. But
That's
yeah, so as a GM, I'm very much like, just give me the bare bones, and we will work together in a lot of circumstances and a lot of instances where it's like, okay, so you told me that this bad thing happened. That bad thing is now relevant to the campaign.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We need to explore it.
And I like that so much better. Again, with Ziva, I'm like, the core four fucked off to go fight something and never came back. I don't know what they went to go fight.
Mm,
Decide what's good for your story. Like,
yeah.
I don't need to go over that. Are they alive? Are they dead? I have no idea. Decide what's good for your story.
Off
Mm-hmm.
the top of my head, they're undead, and you will encounter them.
Yeah, they're undead. They've been turned. They're
Yep.
frozen. Um,
They're now grave knights.
yeah, yeah. They've been petrified, and you have to go save them. They're in the
Yeah.
stomach of an astral dreadnought. Like, so many options.
I for me, because this is a collaborative storytelling medium, I think the backstories have to be collaborative as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's not easy for a GM to take a backstory that like kind of doesn't even vibe with their world
Yeah.
and then shoehorn it in. Like
Yeah,
that's hard.
and that's always
Mm.
been my worry. Is like, I don't want to make too like full of a world, because I don't want to step on like the GM's toes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that there is an expectation. I've written these 10 pages of backstory. I want it to appear in the campaign somehow. You can't do that. That is not something that is necessarily possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we've resolved that issue.
Hey, look at
You
us
know, I think
resolving issues. I'm proud
we're
of us.
resolving issues left, right, and center. I want to say thank you to the Dungeon Maestro for the use of the theme of our theme tune. All That Jazz is a fantastic tune. Dungeon Maestro does produce some amazing stuff. Go check out their YouTube channel. Zoop Misfit, tell us what's going on.
As always, please check out Vampire with No Name, done by Dubious Creatures.
We do weekly episode drops. We are about halfway through our story now, which is epic. And once the first season wraps up, we will have a new sort of interlude 4-part story coming out called Final Girl. It's phenomenal. I've listened to at least the rough cuts of it, and it's so good. Oh my god. Oh my god. So anyway, listen to that when you get a chance. And I will check out the old ways and their Mage the Ascension podcast, because I will be in it. And that is bi-weekly on Fridays, I believe. I believe that's a Friday release.
All right, Zoop.
You can check out zoopmachine.card.co for where I've been, where I'm going, and who I think is cool and you should check out at least whenever I update it. Convention Zero is the place to be, April 3rd to May. No, April 30th to May 3rd. It's free, it's online, and you get to talk to other people who love TTRPGs. And that's really what's important here.
Yep.
100%. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, just follow us on social media at Too Legit to Crit. We're on Threads, we're on Blue Sky. You can follow me at Natural One if you want some cynicism and sarcasm. I do that daily. Other than that, I want to thank Misfit and Zoop for joining me this evening. It's been absolutely fantastic to catch up with you guys as always. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's taken time out of their busy day listening to us waffle on about tabletop role-playing games. Thank you very much, and good night.